Alright, so let's get going. Today we're going to do things a little bit different. I have my Sharpie here, just so you can see it, but you can use a regular pen. We're going to actually use the whole paper, so we're going to draw kind of a waved line in any direction, kind of across the space. It doesn't need to be the entire page. And then you're going to double that line up and make another kind of one to match it. It can be skinnier in some sections and wider in others, it doesn't matter. And then we're going to draw basically a box around that section. Again, these lines don't have to be straight. You can make them wavy or whatever you want to do with it. Just like that. And then in the middle, we're going to draw a line across it. It can be arched down, it can be the other direction, it doesn't really matter. I don't care which way you go. So we have 1, 2, and then we're going to do the third pattern at the top. And I'm going to start in this lower left section. Doesn't really matter though, you can start wherever you want. So you're going to draw some lines. I like to draw left to right. You can do whatever you'd like. Draw some straight lines or some little arched lines, kind of like that, across the space. They don't have to be evenly spaced. You can mix them up. If you want them to all be straight or evenly parallel, that's fine. Okay, so inside of one section, you're going to draw a wavy line through the center. It shouldn't touch either of the lines on the side. And you don't want it to be like a zigzag, just a nice wavy line. The waves should not mimic each other, so like the one you drew above, it should be slightly different than the one next to it, just so it doesn't look all the same. You're going to do that through all the sections. That little one there you probably won't see. I always start in the middle for some reason, so you can start wherever you want. And then one little one at the top. And then we're going to just work in one section. I'm going to show you the pattern for one section, and then you put it through it. So you're going to start by making an actual zigzag section. You want them to be wide zigzags. You don't want it to be really skinny at the top, because you're going to be putting a pattern in here. So doesn't have to be the same though. So whatever you draw in one section, it doesn't need to be that wide in the other. You just don't want the zigzags to be close together. And then you have to go back and fill that end in if you don't start that way. So there'll be one, you have to kind of imagine that this line goes beyond the outside section. So when you're working with this pattern, all of the actual points, like the skinny sections of the triangle, are going to be white. So all these peaks, I guess, and valleys are going to be white. You're not going to draw on there. You're just going to draw on the other section. You always want to start at the point, draw an imaginary line in your head, and then when you get to the wave, you want to draw your line. Go back to the point, kind of hover over, and then draw your next line. They should kind of radiate out, so anything that's closer to the point would be a closer line, anything that's further away would be separated more. So you can see there that the outside edges are, so as it gets further away from the point, it's going to be separated more. And you have to kind of like go across in a wave, so if it helps to draw a line right down the center of the triangle section, and then you can kind of see where you're supposed to put your other lines. You can certainly do that, because sometimes mine miss the mark, like that dark one there in the middle there. Sometimes they miss the mark and they get a little close or they get a little far. But once you get good at it, you'll just be able to draw your lines. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to skip that peak there. That peak is going to be white, and I'm going to work in the top section, or the wide section between the two peaks, and do exactly the same thing. I have to turn my paper here because I don't do well drawing away from myself. And you can repeat the exact same process. Kind of just hover over that dot, come out to the wavy line, and when you hit the wavy line, draw your radiating line all the way out to the other straight line. And if you notice on this one, you can see a lot more dark space on the wave. It's just because the lines are closer together. So anytime the wave is closer to the peak, you're going to see a little bit more of a dark shadow there than you would like on the first one, for example, where the wave is pretty far from the peak. So don't think you're doing it wrong. That's totally how it should be. So for me, when I go on to the next section, you can either go back and flip back and forth, or you can just continue on with everything on the one side and then turn your paper and go the other way. So I'm going to just continue on with the same process for the rest of the section, and then we're going to go back and do, or you're not go back, but you're going to go and do that in all the remaining sections. And that's all there is to it. So you're just going to repeat that in all the rest of the sections. Sit back and enjoy the music and enjoy drawing. So sometimes after you get a pattern finished, you don't really like how it looks. So this one, I think it's a little bit too cluttered. So you can go back and through and you can draw the straight lines, that for first lines that you drew in the section. You can just kind of double them up and add a little bit of thickness to them. It just helps break them apart a little bit more. So if you can actually make these as thick as you want. So if you want really thick lines, you certainly can just draw it or color it in a lot thicker than what I'm doing here. This is completely optional, you don't have to do this. So if yours looks really cool how you like it, you can just leave it alone. Alright, so go on to pattern 2 up here. These I drew left to right, so you can draw the next section any direction you want, but I'm going to probably do mine vertical. You can do them straight up and down or the opposite direction too. So you're going to draw some straight lines, parallel lines. I'm going to start out a little bit where they get kind of skinny on one side and get wider as they go across. So as you can see, I'm going to kind of make them a little bit bigger gradually. Each one is just a little bit further than the one before. You don't have to do it this way. You can just have them all evenly spaced. It doesn't matter to me. You can actually have them really, really close together if you want to make this pattern really small. It does look really cool, but it's very time consuming. So you can do it any direction that you want. Oh, I need one more right here. So you can see it's skinnier and it gets a little bit wider. It's just kind of an illusion, but you can do it that way too. I'm going to start on this end one here, and you're going to draw some wavy lines. It's just going to be kind of a loopy zigzag. So when you get to this edge set, you're going to draw, again, imagine that the line continues on so you can kind of see where it should line up. And then you're going to draw your solid lines when you come back into the space. And again, you should think of this this kind of a loop as made like stacked beads. So you want them to sort of arch up and meet at the point. Oops. So it needs to cross where it crossed the line right there, and then it'll hit over on the other side as well. So you want to kind of eyeball it ahead of time where you're supposed to draw your line. And then you go all the way up and out of the section, just like that. So it looks like stacked beads. You're going to skip a line, and then you're going to do the exact same thing. So there's one solid line in between, and then you're going to draw more loops on the next one. And you're going to follow the exact same process. Make sure you cross at those intersections, and then you skip a line and do it again. You don't want really sharp curves. You want this to be more of a gradual loop. Oops, that was a little skinny. Oh well. I should have been out there, but oh well. And then these end ones are a little bit tricky because you really won't see too much, but there'll be some lines in there. Okay, just like that. So you can kind of see the loops there. Okay, so this section here, you can put it anywhere that you want. I'm going to draw this next part on the left side of my loops. So it's just going to be a series of straight, horizontal, parallel lines. So they're going to go kind of straight across the section versus diagonal. They're not arched at all, they're just straight. Mine are really close together, so yours do not have to be that close. You can make them further apart if you want it to be a little bit more separated, or you can do what I'm doing here. The closer your lines are together, the darker the appearance of the section will be. If you don't want it to be that dark, you certainly can just put a little bit of space in between your lines, and then it will look lighter or whiter. So I kind of like that it's the same type of thickness as the first pattern that we drew. So it's up to you if you like that look. If you don't want them to be similar, you can certainly separate these lines out. It doesn't matter. But I'm going to draw them on the left in this section. So all the other sections that I draw with the loops, the straight lines are always going to be on the left. So you want this pattern to be basically the same in each section. So now that I have all my stripes completed, On the right, those are all going to be white. All of these loops in the part where I drew the lines are going to be white, but the opposite side is going to be black. I'm going to color it in completely solid. You can do whatever it is that you like, but this is how I'm going to draw it. I think I'm going to have to get a little bit thicker marker for the next section, but you're just going to draw it in solid. You can do more of a sketchy look if you don't want it to be completely solid. So again, you can modify this however you want. It's up to you. Alright, so I'm going to switch to the big Sharpie to color these in because these sections are quite large and I don't want to spend all my time drawing everything in. So you're just going to color all of these black. Obviously you're going to stop when you get to the edge of the box. You're not going to follow those dashed lines that we drew. You don't even have to draw those, by the way. Those are just so you can kind of eyeball it. Those are strictly for your reference, not for as part of the design. Okay, so that's the pattern. And you're going to repeat that in all the other sections over here. So you can start with whatever section you like. I'm going to go back to the lines, but you can certainly do whatever it is that you want to do. Okay, so that's it. So I'm gonna, oh. So this is just regular printer paper, and apparently the Sharpie juice goes through there and has stuck to my table, so be careful of that. So this is the pattern. I don't really like how this looks here. I think it's a little cluttered, so I'm just gonna make that a little bit thicker right through the center there. Again, that's completely optional. You can leave a wider section if you want. It's up to you what you want to do there, but I'm just gonna draw one simple line and it fixes the issue completely. And now we're going to do the pattern at the top. So this can be used as a border. This actually can be used as a fill as well. I'm going to start kind of off a little bit. I'm not going to go right to the edge. I'm going to start it in maybe a ½ inch or so. And then I'm just going to draw some scallops. They can be whatever size or shape you want. I'm going to do kind of two that are the same, and then one really large one here. And then kind of one that sort of goes off the edge of the page. So I'm not going to finish that. Come back and do the other side as well. And then you're going to do like we did with the other sections where we drew all the straight lines and all of these. I'm going to do the same thing, but it's going to be arched. So these larger ones are a little bit harder, so the smaller the arch you make, the little bit easier it is to draw it on the inside. So these big ones here are a little bit more tricky. You have to kind of stop and turn your paper because your hand doesn't quite rotate far enough. You're just going to draw the lines as close together as you wish, but they should be pretty close together. I have, when I practiced this one, the further the lines were apart, it kind of loses a little bit of the design overall, but it's up to you. You don't have to be, they don't have to be quite this close. So you can just do this in all the different sections there. Okay, so now we're going to add to the pattern. You can leave it like that if you want, but we're going to do kind of some extra waves behind. I'm going to start here and kind of make an actual wave pattern. I'm not going to do a full loop. So this is optional, and then you can draw some different sections, different circle sections behind there, big and small, doesn't matter. So in these little ones, you're just going to do exactly the same thing in all the other sections, and fill it in exactly the same way. On this wavy one over here, you're going to still follow the same wave pattern that you drew. So you're going to kind of make that little bump, a little valley piece in there, and trace that all the way through. These lines will go behind the first one that's in front of it. So when you get to that next, or the first arches that you drew in the first row, you're going to actually draw your lines behind or through that section. You're not going to actually put your pen through that part. You're just going to kind of make it look like it goes behind that. So like all of these here, they're just going to kind of die off when I get to that circle section, and then they're going to come out the other side, but I'm not actually going to draw through that first arch that I drew. So it's just going to be that same kind of thing. Now again, you can leave it here, you can stop here if you want, or you can go on and add some more. I think I'm going to add one more line, just with some general arches behind there. You don't have to do that wave in all of them, but it's kind of a nice separation behind there. So you're going to, again, repeat the exact same process. Alright, just like that. So now we're going to draw, fill in this like white section again. You can leave this white if you want. We're just going to do a standard checkerboard in this one. So it's going to be one black, one white, one black, one white, all the way across. The lines are vertical. You can make them as far or as close together as you'd like. Again, this is completely optional. If you just want it to be black, or you want it to be white, or you want to add some gold, you certainly can do that here as well. It doesn't really matter what you do. I kind of like the black and white contrast, excuse me. Kind of like in the second pattern that we did. It has that black and white contrast. I think I'm going to add that up here as well. So I'm going to get my big Sharpie just because I'm lazy. And I'm going to color in every other one black. And that's all there is to it. So I'm just letting you know that stripes are cool. I hope you enjoyed the doodles today, and hope you were able to calm your mind. And I'll see you again next week.